Good morning. My name is Ron Daniels, and proud to be here with you guys today. I always want to give Eleanor Holmes Norton her support, her thank yous for her support, and being a long-term supporter of needle exchange programs. When nobody else was behind needle exchange, Congresswoman Norton was there. I belong to one of the most progressive, proactive churches in Washington, D.C., which is Westminster Presbyterian. I'm proud to be there. I'm proud to have been able to start a harm reduction program in that particular church, because one of the things that Westminster does is that they don't just talk about the importance of HIV and AIDS and prevention. They are on hands supportive. As you all know, we are saved by grace, but we live by our choices. You will hear a lot about policy. You'll hear a lot about dates. You'll hear a lot about numbers. But I want to talk to you today about the effectiveness and the benefits of the needle exchange programs. A lot of people don't really understand what needle exchange is, the purpose that it serves, and what we do. What is syringe exchange? Syringe exchange is an intervention used to stop, reduce the spread of HIV, hepatitis C, and other bloodborne diseases. It comes out of the family of harm reduction. And I know a lot of guys here, a lot of people hear the terms of harm reduction. But what is harm reduction? Harm reduction is no universal definition of what harm reduction is. It's a set of practical principles that we use on a daily basis that range from chaotic use to abstinence. And along that continuum, harm reduction gives us the benefit of being able to help people along the continuum. So instead of having just one particular method to help somebody, you have several. In order for the syringe exchange programs to be effective, we need to understand that it is a non-judgmental, compassionate approach. It is not something that we force people on. It is not something that we make people do. It's simply an approach of non-intrusive, how can we help you? We don't endorse or condone people's drug use. What we do is give people the opportunity to be healthy and safe until they're able to make better choices or decisions. So in saying that, we don't want people to use drugs. For whatever reason, people think that syringe exchange programs increases people's drug use, makes people use drugs more often than not. That's not the case. In providing this intervention, we understand that nobody wakes up and decides that, hey, you know, this morning I want to be an injective drug user, and I want to shoot all the drugs I can. I want to snort all the coke that I can, and I just want to sell my body, be a sex worker today, and this is just what I want to do. That's just a behavior, you know. Addiction is a behavior. It's a dis-ease. It's something that happens, and it doesn't mean that the individual is a bad person. It just means that the individual or the individuals have a behavior that maybe needs some attention. It's just like anybody else that have to have 2 or 3 cups of coffee, have to have alcohol, have to have sex, have to spend a certain amount of money shopping, have to have certain foods to eat. Those are issues too. But how do we look at those issues? Because a person used drugs, should the person be condoned, or should the person be forced or put in a situation where he's not important, he's no longer a human being because he has a bad habit? I don't think so. I think that that individual is just like the person that has to have that first cup of coffee to get going in the morning. I think that that individual is just as important as every other individual. And so I think that we need to rethink about how we look at people that have diseases. I don't think that nobody should be forced to have HIV or hepatitis C because they use drugs. And that's why we talk about syringe exchange. And that's why that intervention is so important. Since 2008, when the District of Columbia, which is what Eleanor Holmes Norton talked about, got behind the syringe exchange program, the rates of infection dropped enormously. New infection rates decreased 80%. Deaths by transmissions of IDUs dropped by 70%. Syringe exchange programs allow us to have a conversation and a dialogue with people that ordinarily and normally we don't even talk to. If we see an individual walking down the street and they stop behind a trash can or on the corner or kneel behind a car and decide that they're going to do whatever they do, if we see that, most of us in this room would keep walking, not say anything to that individual, and if we seen them after the intervention was over with. If we didn't have something negative to say, we probably wouldn't say anything at all. I'm saying that to say that that's the difference in syringe exchange programs. It allows us to have conversations and dialogue with people that normally we wouldn't have nothing to say to. It allows us to open up the door and the avenue for people that are vulnerable, that are degraded, looked down on, to feel comfortable, to come in, sit down, and talk about some things that's going on with them. Because more often than not, that particular intervention or that particular drug use is just the surface. It's not really what they are or who they are. It's what's going on with them at the time. And so when they have a place where they can come and sit down and begin to talk about really what's going on, it allows a light to come on. And most of the time when people come to needle exchange programs, the light does come on at some point in time. We're not intrusive about the light coming on. We don't force them to make the light come on. We don't force them to go into treatment. What we allow them to do is to get comfortable enough to be able to talk about what's really going on with them. And when they're ready for some help, we're there to provide those resources and help. To tell you a little bit about the effectiveness of needle exchange program, in the last 11 months, and we're talking about just 11 months. We're not talking about from 2008. We're talking about just the last 11 months. It has allowed us to place 115 people in detox. It has allowed us to place people in alternatives to treatment, which are methadone, Suboxone clinics, outpatient programs, 215 people. So that's already 330 people that has been in treatment or in some kind of treatment in the last year that normally we wouldn't have thought about treatment at all. But that's just from the needle exchange program. It allowed us to test 1,516 people that know their status, whether that status was positive or negative. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that they know. Hepatitis testing, 700 people learn their status about hepatitis and are in some kind of treatment. We've passed out 399,507 condoms. That means that so many people have been educated on the importance of strapping up. I mean, just using condoms. All of these things that we're talking about are things that the syringe exchange programs allowed us to do. We have registered over 290 clients, which tells you that people are still using drugs. I mean, so we can act like it's not happening. We can sweep it under the rug. We can act like, this is not something that is in our community or neighborhoods, but I beg to differ. We have documented over 7,900 clients who are actually exchanging syringes. We've received we've actually distributed 544,685 syringes. And we have gotten in return 554,270 syringes, which means we have a 97.5% return ratio, which is actually awesome. It's one thing to distribute syringes, but when you got people bringing them back, that means that people are being accountable. And so when we began to educate people about HIV and hepatitis C, and they began to not just participate in the programs, but learn to encourage other people to participate in the programs, I think that we're doing a great service. So what would we do, or where would we be if all of those syringes that we have gotten back from the clients, what would we be, or what would we do if they were all in the alleys, parking lots, or playgrounds? Just because the syringe exchange programs are up and running doesn't mean that clients have to come. They could choose to do other things if they felt. like they didn't want to come, or if they felt nervous or scared about the services that we were providing. So I'm saying that to say that syringe exchange programs work, they are effective, and that without them, I don't know where we would be. So remember that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Why wait until people get infected to decide that we need to do something? Why not do it before people get infected? And so that's how I feel about the effectiveness and the benefits of syringe exchange programs. Thank you.
Thank you.